Hi, I'm just going to go for it. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go and how it's going to look, but I've been reflecting on, well, there's friends, quite a few friends are deciding to homeschool their children, and it crosses my mind plenty because we're not in that Steiner school, and the way that education is going in this country, the UK, I'm in the UK, and what they call it, the curriculum coming down from the government is like totally ridiculous. And the school that she's in now, they've cut out a lot of they've cut out arts, and they've cut out self-organized learning, and well, they've called it something else, but it just doesn't seem as obvious as when we started in that school. And so my reflections are on how, if we don't like the systems that are in place, so the way the government works, the way that our institutions work, the way that management works, the way that leadership works, the way that our schools work, the way our universities work, the way our banks work, the way capitalism works, all that stuff that we're not really into. We don't like how it's going. We don't feel like it's reflecting the evolution of where we want to go. Okay, so that's what I'm reflecting on, and I'm seeing. Hi, thank you. I'm seeing that we don't like how things are run, and this is me musing about how do we create this change. And I've gone through huge evolutions in how I want to make an impact. It seems to be glitching on my end, so I hope it's not glitching for everyone else. So my focus has always been planetary. It's always been about making the world a better place. And I felt like that since I was quite young. Well, I was reminded that I was like that when I was at school. I saw an old school friend a few years back, and she was like, "You were always like this." And I couldn't really remember. And then I've looked at old art books from when I was at high school, and everything I did was about the have and the have-nots, and the juxtaposition of the developing world and the developed world, and how it was, just how messy the world was. And I've always had that it's always been dear to my heart. And maybe it's also because my dad's like a human rights activist and all that kind of thing. So planetary focus has always been really dear to my heart. And that's manifested throughout my entire life, actually. And when I went to university in Lancaster, I studied behaviour in organisations. And it's an amazing course, really amazing teachers, and they get you really looking at how does society work, how does management work, how does leadership work, how does power and control work, how does society work, how have we got to where we've got to. And it's absolutely amazing to learn all that stuff. But I ended up, you could come out as a very, very clever business consultant, really knowing how to manage people and how to get the results that you want, the bottom line, all that kind of thing. But because it was in a management school. But I ended up on the other spectrum and ended up hanging out with all the green activists, and I was basically really pissed off about how the world was working and how our history has just been marred with injustice. And so I went the other end. I turned into activist instead of great business consultant, and they still joke, if they've seen me since, they still joke about that they turned me into this crazed activist. And I even went my dissertation in my master's, because I'd done so well and I really, really enjoyed my university course and studied management. I ended up asking them, would you mind if I did my master's but studied in the same way you've taught me, but study activism, social groups, social movements, and all that kind of thing. So they kind of left me to my own devices, and my dissertation was all about the utopian function of the imagination, and watching the big road protests and social movements, and how the activists that they don't show on the telly, or the big marches they don't show on the telly, those kind of people that organize that. Could I study their ways of leadership? Could I study how they organize and their history? So they let me do that, and it was really interesting to study that. And I ended up I went in there with rose-tinted glasses, thinking like, yeah, activism is the way. I ended up even being wearing the masks and having the placards, but it paused. I don't know why. So I was out doing the proper protesting with the placards and being like really angry, and then organizing, like we were like little ants organizing movements and groups and how to create your own media when this kind of social media didn't exist. And, I even went traveling to like Barcelona and different places to meet other activists, and organize these big marches. I wasn't involved in the big marches, but that was what part of my, interests were in looking into that. So I've been on that end of things. And when I did the dissertation and I started really studying leadership and control in social movements, I didn't come out with rose-tinted glasses. It started looking quite disillusioning. A lot of it was a bit cult-like. There was a lack of reflection on your own internal processes. And so kind of what I felt was that you're going out shouting and being angry and trying to rattle the cage, this kind of indigo energy. If you're aware of my aura transformation work, we talk about a lot about indigo energy and crystal energy. And indigo energy is like, we're going to rattle the cages, we're going to make a change, we're going to push the boundaries, and it's really all this push, and it's pushing against something outside. And I actually, I realize that that's exhausting, and it also takes the gaze away from what kind of person you're being and what kind of relationships you're having. So there was an inkling then that pushing and rattling, pushing against the walls of the establishment and being angry about something out there wasn't necessarily the way forward. Then I'm going to jump a few years ahead, because I had Isla in between there. And so then I'm looking for proper jobs. And I end up doing several different... Oh, actually, I missed a bit. Whilst I was doing my dissertation and learning about activism, I actually chose to live in a bender, which is like a yurt, I guess, for a year. And it was really tough, and I had no idea even how to make a fire at the beginning. And but I did it because I thought, if I'm going to talk about this utopian function of our imagination, to imagine a better future, to have hope for a better future, then I'm going to have to walk the talk and do it. So I actually lived in this structure for my last year of my dissertation. So all this stuff was happening. Okay, now fast forward to having jobs. And so even then there's been a focus on making the world a better place. So development education centres, Oxfam, all these kind of jobs, but really quite office-based jobs or shop jobs. And yes, it's noble to do this work, and it wasn't in the end of the day that it wasn't for me. Like, I didn't feel fulfilled in the ways that I did when I was rebelling. There was an element missing, for me. And now I know I just wasn't in my life purpose, and it wasn't exactly where my skills lie. And during this whole time, yes, I was feeling like, oh wow, I can kind of see energy. I can rant inspirationally about stuff. I can help people. And what happened, and the biggest, how do you say it, it was the biggest gift ever, was falling down the stairs. And I talk about this in other places, and I'll probably bring it up again. But falling down the stairs for me was a massive wake-up call, and it was a real chance for me to really assess, where do I want to go with my life, and what do I want to do, and how am I going to do it? And what I realized, that the period following the fall down the stairs has led to me having a much greater impact and affecting the most change to the people I love. It meant that I went internal, I went inside. The rebellion I wanted all my life, not the rebellion, but the changing the world energy that I really wanted in my life was actually inside. It was an inside job. It wasn't me rattling the cage and waving placards at buildings. The real change came when I actually focused inwards, not like forever, looking inwards forever. It was that, it was a few months of me really dedicating myself to looking at how I process information, how I process emotion, what my behaviors have been like, what am I afraid of, what have I done that I'm not proud of? What have people done to me that I've not healed from? You know, what am I angry about? What have I lost? What have I taken? Blah, blah, blah. And I just went on and on and on and on like that, really going through all of this stuff. And that's when the fundamental foundations of my life changed, and my relationship with my daughter completely changed, and with my mum and my father, and in all of my friendships and relationships changed completely, because I was no longer living from some people contest this, but from a vibration of difficult emotions and energies to work from. So I'm going to do a live at another point, not this week, about how I actually did all this bit, you know, the going inwards and the processes I went through. And maybe if there's a calling for it, I'll set up a group and we can do it together, and, you know, I'll walk us through the process I use. Well, I layered many processes to do it. And as I learned to love myself more and more, and as I learned to not be reactive, and as I learned to make choices about the kind of life I wanted and the people I wanted around me, everything changed and opportunities changed. And me becoming, I mean, it sounds simple, but me becoming happier and more grounded and more peaceful, more at peace with myself, had the biggest impact. And going back to the beginning of why I started talking about this, was that, you know, wanting to make the world a better place, and taking children out of school and homeschooling them, and being angry, and that being angry and protesting these institutions that we don't like, and then turning around and creating a world that we do like. I think the first real foundation has to be what kind of people we are when we're building these new ways of living, or new ways of being, new ways of interacting. And I think that change really starts within. That's my basic message today, is going inwards is such a worthy trip. You can carry your baggage and your emotions and your ancestral patterns and traumas. You can carry them all your life, and they'll weigh you down, and they will line your face, and you will just feel heavier and heavier, and maybe feel like there's no way out, or that this is it. And I don't believe. Oh, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate that, because I have no, just before I go on a live, I have no idea what I'm going to say, really. I actually just took some, like, pretty chalky notes, but I haven't looked at them, which is nice. But, you know, it's coming through and from me, and maybe a reaction to whoever's going to be listening. And so, where was I? Change start, you know, just, I really think the biggest change that you can create in your life is to do, I call it like a life review, you know, really review how you're being in the world, and seek help from people that know how to navigate that emotional, energetic, spiritual, ancestral landscape. If it's not me, go find the people that are here to do this. You know, there's armies of people like me that are out there trying to help people walk to the new earth, the new world, the promised land. And what we don't like is crumbling. And I don't watch TV or the news or read papers, so, you know, I'm just going from how it feels within me. And I have a feeling that this stuff that we don't want anymore is crumbling. And it's not a matter of fighting it. And we need all sorts of people, actually. We do need the people that fight it. We need the human rights activists. We need the guys in the parliament that want change. We need those people, but there's another way too. That's not for everyone to go and wave placards at walls, you know. There's a revolution that's happening in every single home and every single heart. And I'm very proud to be part of it. Oh, I'm getting emotional now. Lots of love, everyone, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.